So I was of course way too young to experience the original TF Prime toy line. I was born when Transformers Cybertron aired, so by the time Prime came, I was still doing my dive in elementary school, which is why I am so grateful at the existence of this concept of unofficial reissues, or knockoff for a more degrading and unfortunately accurate term. This also gives me a taste of what deluxe class Transformers used to be, and I gotta say, I'm totally hooked. Greetings people of YouTube, I'm Screaming Star, and in this video I'll be reviewing the Gear Factory / APC Toys Wander Warrior, also known as the Prime RID Wheeljack figure. If you don't know, APC Toys are a knockoff company who make quote-unquote reissues of Transformers Prime figures, whether it's Prime RID or even First Edition. This figure, however, falls under a different company name, Gear Factory. The reason as to why, how the f should I know? I'm not their dad. If you know, feel free to leave it down in the comments below. But legal loopholes aside, let's talk about the actual character that I'm looking at. Transformers Prime's version of Wheeljack is a somewhat different take from the classic G1 character. Instead of being an inventor / scientist, he's a rough and tumble wrecker who will ruin any Decepticon's day with his dual swords. I absolutely loved him in the show, thus I was very ecstatic when I got the chance to get this thing. And after opening him up from his honestly very sick looking box, we can see that he's packaged in this really nice feeling foam material. Lovely. And this figure is even more lovely. I have quite a few issues with him, but man, is he just so fun to play with. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just get straight to his accessories. Now, one thing that frustrated the heck out of me was that he came with no instructions. Other than this little pamphlet of amendment, I was about to do this review blind until I noticed that in the packaging, there's a QR code that'll lead you to a video instruction made by MangMotion. Traditional paper instructions would have been nice, but I guess this ain't bad either. With this figure, you get a pair of swords, another pair of swords, I don't have dementia, I swear, a pair of arm cannons, what I assume to be his grenade, and 3 interchangeable head sculpts. Got 2 types of blades here, and frankly, I don't know the relevance of these. If I have to guess, one pair is probably a carryover from the original toy, while the other pair is more show accurate, and appropriately so. I much prefer this pair's looks. They've got more details on them and the sculpts just look more sleek. Sadly, he doesn't have the greatest grip due to this upgrade that allows his index and middle fingers to move, but you know what, as long as you keep him stable, this should be fine. Not content with melee weaponry, you also get his double arm cannons. Look pretty cool, and integration is the same as the swords, which means whoopee, more loose grip. And what's one more loose grip with this grenade? Yippee. It's got a removable pin, which is kind of useless, but it's a cool attention to detail. Now, as far as his 3 heads go, I'll talk more about them during the detail segment, but for now, let me tell you how to swap them. Open up his chest, unravel his apparatus, pop off the head, and put on whichever head you like. Lovely. Whew, that was a bunch of arsenal. But what if I tell you that all of these can be stored into the figure, except for the 3 heads? God damn, what a nice feature. And I wouldn't have known this if it wasn't for MangMotion's video, thank you very much. I do recommend being careful with these swords though. Paint chipping and breakage may occur over time if you're not careful. What a great assortment of accessories. And the robot mode also comes with a good assortment of improvements over the original counterpart, which includes some added points of posability, that I'll cover later of course, some filled in gaps, and the overall color scheme by the looks of it. For the most part, it's still the same as the original from what I can tell, which isn't bad at all. He's extremely show accurate, but these little improvements do make the figure seem better than the original release, and I'm all for it. This is my favorite Wheeljack design, and Hasbro absolutely nailed this thing back in the day, with APC Toys adding a few tweaks that make it that much better. Oh, how can I forget? This head sculpt was not carried over from the original figure, and I gotta say, it looks amazing. Perfectly captures Wheeljack's stern persona. But if this is too bland for you, you also get a scowling face, which is definitely my favorite, and a masked face. This was the head that came with the original figure, and it looks just as amazing as the other heads. All of these head sculpts do feature light piping, which is another feature that's not present on the original release. If I have one problem with the aesthetics, it would be his proportions look a bit wonky when standing straight up at least, but they do make him look very bulky, which is definitely the vibe that I got from Prime Wheeljack in the show. His back looks clean. I love how they handled the wings. And the legs look like legs. They look nice. What's not so nice, however, is his solidity. It's inevitable for the joint tolerances to be not up to par with a Hasbro or Takara release. Really, it's mostly just the outward movement of the hips, but that does make him a bit difficult to stand up at times, so I suggest being wary of that. However, it is not difficult to get him to cool poses, because his posability is actually pretty good. So while he does have have some limitations to his posing. For something made in like 2010, 2011, he's great. Ball joint at the head that can make him look all over the place. Up that far, look down that far. Of course, a rotation and a slight pivot. Shoulders can rotate 360, can move out but that far. Butterfly joint. Bicep swivel, which the original figure did not have. Somewhat pathetic elbow bend that you can kind of cheat by moving this piece around, and that doesn't look that bad. Wrists are on a hinge joint and a ball joint that is a bit tight, but yeah, it's really useful for some sword poses. I guess you can kind of have a wrist pivot with this, but also something that the original figure did not have is that his index and middle fingers can move like that. Don't know why that is. It's more annoying than anything. And why only these two? Why not a full-on finger clamping action? I don't get it. And probably the most disappointing part, no waist swivel. For something made in this era, I totally get it. Legs can kick forward that far, that's not the best. Starts to kick out if you move it forward more so, and yeah, you can do the splits, which as I said is very loose. So yeah, just be careful with this. Thigh swivel, a knee bend that don't quite meet 90 degrees, but it's not too bad. And the knee pads are on a separate hinge joint. And lastly, the ankles. They kind of have that Kingdom Tracks floating joint syndrome, but it's not as bad. They can move down that far, up a little bit, somewhat of a swivel, and a surprisingly good pivot. So while he may seem a little limited at first, trust me, he's very fun to pose. And I shall prove that by doing the Strike a Pose segment. So yeah, that was one impressive robot mode. Now, one major aspect in which old and new figures like to be compared in would be the sizes of these figures. And oh man, is this a large deluxe. Size comparisons. Here's Wonder Warrior / Wheeljack next to a standard sized modern deluxe, the Legacy United Magnius. My only other Transformers Prime character, the Legacy United Thundertron. Comparing him to a regular 6-inch scale figure, we have the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, the only other Wheeljack in my collection, the Bumblebee movie version. Don't even ask me about the Studio series. Pablo! Don't like that design, not gonna spend money on it. But yeah, I think these two look pretty cool. And these are coincidentally my two favorite Wheeljack designs. I just like this figure a lot more so. Now, if you thought what we've seen so far was cool, wait until you check out the vehicle mode. But before that, we shall endure this very fun transformation. Whew, what a nice car mode. It's just so fun to hold, I don't know how to describe it. It's also fun to look at. All the swooping angles and dynamic colors make this car pop. Gotta love the fact that the faux windshield is covered by the actual windshield. That's really clever. He rolls incredibly well too. Nice. Weapon storage wise, it's not as impressive as the robot mode. These swords don't have a place to go as far as I know, but I still appreciate the existence of it. Also, in the original toy, this elephant tusk look is an option, and just why? The swords have got storage at the bottom, and to my knowledge, this look is not so accurate. Just gimmicks things, I guess. An amazing car mode to complement a great robot mode. This can't get any better. Which is why we'll move on to the size comparisons. Here's Wheeljack next to Magnius, Thundertron, Mr. Knight, and finally, Bumblebee movie Wheeljack. And there goes my review for the APC Toys / Gear Factory Wonder Warrior. Not only does this figure give me a taste of what pre-Siege Generations toy would have felt like, it also improves on the fact and makes this an even better toy for me. And it also gives me a good first impression of both the Transformers Prime toy line and APC Toys themselves. I definitely recommend this figure if you are a fan of Transformers Prime, and you don't have any of the original versions of this mode yet in your collection. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully I'll see y'all next time. Let's take a look back at my Rise of the Beast collection. We still have skirts, got Freezer, Battle Trap, and ooh, hell yeah.